Reporting Requirements webinar. If that's why you're here, you are in the right place. So thank you to all the VISTA supervisors and members that are on the call. We are recording the call, so we will make that available later to you by tomorrow. I would just like to let you know who's going to be speaking with you today. My name is Debbie Wise, and I manage the NeighborWorks VISTA program. Also on the call is Tina Dunphy from the CNCS Ohio State Office. She's the state director. And then also joining us is Charlotte Wiltsey. She's your VISTA leader. And then Sam Sauter, who is our outgoing VISTA leader, is still with us today. So we have muted all the phone lines. You can chat any questions you have in the online chat feature, and then there will be a chance for us to respond to those questions throughout the webinar, and then at certain points we'll check the chat and read your questions out loud and answer them. So if you wouldn't mind, please go ahead and chat in the chat feature right now, letting me know that you can hear me okay. Are we good? Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right, so here's our agenda for the next hour or so. We're going to go over reporting and monitoring. Tina's going to talk with you a little bit about why that's important and offer you the CNCS perspective. And then we're going to go through all the reports that you'll be responsible for. So there's the Project Progress Report, which is oftentimes referred to as the PPR, and that is roughly every 6 months. There's the Quarterly Report, which, as you can probably guess, is every quarter. Then we have a 6-month performance review, which happens around the midterm for your VISTA members. And then there's the VISTA Attendance Report, which is also called a Verification Report, verifying that they are attending. And then also our VISTA Performance Evaluation, which is at the end of the year, referred to as the Future Plans Form. So after we go through all the reporting, Sam's going to offer a demo of the reporting data collection tool that we've sent out. And that's that Excel document that all your VISTA members are or will soon be using. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Tina for a minute, and she'll talk with us a little bit about reporting and monitoring.
Great, thanks, Debbie. Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in the country. As Debbie mentioned, I'm Tina Dunphy. I'm the State Program Director for Ohio, and I've had the privilege of managing the NeighborWorks VISTA project since its inception in 2009. And so since that time, Debbie and other staff at NeighborWorks, as well as all of the leaders, including Sam, and I have yet to meet Charlotte, but all of the other VISTA leaders who've gone before have been just an outstanding team in supporting the VISTA project. And I want you all to know that this project is held in very high regard, not only by me, but by VISTA leadership at headquarters, in part due to the very comprehensive reporting that's done by Debbie as she's collected information from the site, demonstrating the impact that the VISTA members have had over the years. And so Debbie and I and VISTA leaders in the past have worked pretty aggressively on creating a tool that we think is hopefully user-friendly, but also then speaks to all of those points of data and interest that the corporation has in the progress of the VISTA project. So, why do you have to send reports to NeighborWorks? Well, NeighborWorks is required to submit reports to us twice yearly. There are two hard and fast project progress report deadlines with us. However, as Debbie knows well, we are also fairly frequently asking projects for updates on member performance. That could be because there's a special initiative that headquarters is interested in knowing how our resources are being deployed to meet that need. But overall, the two primary reporting periods, the PPR, those are absolute requirements of every VISTA project across the country. So they're required to submit reports to us, and they can only obviously do that if you submit your reporting to NeighborWorks. NeighborWorks, in their vetting of the progress reports that you submit, they're ensuring the accuracy of the data, the information that's submitted. They may go back and forth with you on any questions they may have about the data or the information that you submit. And then once the information comes to me, I review it. Those reports get reviewed by VISTA headquarters. Oftentimes they look to see if there are activities around a specific initiative, as I mentioned before. And in the end, VISTA headquarters then rolls up national data for reporting to Congress. So it's really important that the information comes into us and that it's accurate and detailed enough to give us a good picture of what you're doing, so that we can then go to Congress, who are our appropriators, and demonstrate the value of the investment that they're making and that we're making in you. And so it's been a really great relationship over the last almost 10 years now. And I would say NeighborWorks has one of the best reporting structures that I've seen, even in my own cohort of Ohio programs. NeighborWorks has gone above and beyond in setting up other reporting structures, and it's just so helpful, and to not only me to understand the full picture of the project, but also to VISTA headquarters to see where adjustments may need to be made. But then again, as I said, to report back to Congress on the progress of our investments. So what is this about monitoring? So as part of my job as a program officer in managing the NeighborWorks project, I have to conduct compliance monitoring. A formal compliance monitoring visit is done when I go visit Debbie, and we review files, review reports, and the backup data for those reports. I look at their fiscal information, but on an ongoing basis, monitoring is done through regular communication with Debbie around any VISTA member issues, sub-site issues, and my review of the PPRs or the project reports. Monitoring doesn't just happen that one time every 3 or 4 years. It happens on an ongoing basis. And so as part of that, we monitor VISTA member performance, and the best way for us to do that is obviously through the reports, the formal reports that NeighborWorks submits to us. That gives us a snapshot of what the VISTA members have been working on, any challenges that may come up. Debbie is really great at being proactive, at mitigating for any issues that happen with members or subsites and managing those and keeping me in the loop around those. So you have a really good team there with the VISTA leaders and Debbie, and making sure that they make sure that I am kept up to date on any issues related to that. As part of monitoring and as a part of my review of PPRs, which is, like I said, the more informal part of monitoring, I may request documentation that illustrates the program performance. So I can say that when I review an offline report that Debbie has created over the years called Stories from the Field, which is a very comprehensive report that kind of is an adjunct to the formal e-grants PPR. I've oftentimes asked for additional information related to something that's included in that report. It could be that a VISTA member has created a form or created some system that I want to know more about and that I want to toot the horn about with headquarters. So you need to make sure that you're keeping that information and that you're responding to those kinds of requests from either Debbie or from me through Debbie to support your reporting. And so as part of the formal monitoring, I may ask Debbie to collect backup documentation to support whatever was reported to Debbie in the PPR. So for instance, the tool that Charlotte and or Sam is going to go over with you shortly would be a sample of the tool that would be that I would request backup documentation. So part of my job in monitoring is making sure that the data that's submitted to us or the information that's submitted to us is accurate. And so one of the things that I want you to be aware of is that the data is critical to reporting, but almost as critical is the anecdotal information that should be reported along with the data. The data only tells part of the story. The anecdotal information really kind of fleshes out the full picture and allows us to understand the true impact of a VISTA member service. And I want to say, I noted that there are a number of VISTA members on the call today. I want to thank you for being on the call, but also, and more importantly, thank you for your service. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Debbie.
All right, thank you, Tina. Okay, so we're going to get started on talking about the larger media report that Tina was referring to just now, the project progress report. Now, please know that all this information has already gone out in the NeighborWorks VISTA program report manual, but we will be sure to resend that manual out to you along with this recording. And in our reporting manual, it breaks down all these reports. It covers everything I'm going to share with you now and goes into actually a little bit more detail. So you have something in writing to refer to when it's time to conduct the reporting. So the PPR is used to document project accomplishments during a specific reporting period. So be sure to make note of the reporting period that I advertise so you know exactly when to report out. So you look at the bottom of the screen. Our first PPR will be due from you in February. As we get closer to that date, I'll give you an exact date. But that PPR is going to be for the reporting period of August 20th through February 20th, 2019. So basically the first 6 months that your VISTA members have been in service. So this data, this information, relies on the information collected in the performance measurement tool, which is this Excel spreadsheet. Sam's going to demo that a bit later. Now, VISTA members are responsible for updating this on a monthly basis. And we say monthly because we don't want you to forget all the great work you've been doing. And if you're capturing it on a monthly schedule and saving it to whatever shared drive you have at your site, your supervisor could just go in there, access 6 months worth of that data, and use that to report out on for this PPR. So it's important that VISTA members review and include comments to the completed PPR before the supervisor submits it. However, please keep in mind that members may not prepare or submit the progress report. That is the responsibility of the VISTA supervisor. Also, I'd just like to reiterate what Tina said about the data. All the data in this progress report needs to be supported with backup documentation. So the NeighborWorks performance measurement tool, this Excel file, must be supported with documentation. If we come out on a site visit, we're going to want to see that. We'll want to see your Excel sheets, your monthly Excel sheets, and your backup documentation. So the next type of report are these quarterly reports. And these are kind of fun. They're narrative reports, and we always ask for photos highlighting any VISTA accomplishments from that quarter. So because we already know you're working hard compiling information for the 6-month PPR, we ask that you aim to submit at least 3, but no less than 2 quarterly reports. And this is something that you'll send directly to me via email. And in the reporting manual, the NeighborWorks VISTA program reporting manual, we go into more detail about what types of narratives that we are looking for this quarterly report. But here on the screen, you can see the breakdown of the quarters and when the report is due to NeighborWorks. It could be as simple as 1, 2, or 3 paragraphs of what the VISTA has accomplished within that quarter. Depending on where you are in the cycle of your program, there might not be much to report. Maybe all the big stuff is going to happen in Q2, so you might not have a lot to put into a report in Q1. So that could be an example of maybe you wouldn't submit a report in Q1. Maybe you'll wait to Q2 because that's when it all comes together. Now, the next report is a 6-month performance review. And for most of you, 6 months into your service year will be March. So we feel it's best practice for supervisors to have this mid-year check-in with their VISTA members. Now, I will say that these reviews are not technically required by CNCS, but it is a great opportunity to provide feedback to your members about their performance and clarify any expectations related to their service duties. I would also like to note that it's also good practice to do that on an ongoing basis too. Please don't wait for 6 months into your service year to have a sit down with your VISTA member. Hopefully you're all having regular communications and regular meetings about the work and talking about the VAD and how things are progressing along with the activities listed in the VAD. And with this review, which is a little bit more on the formal side, we provide self-assessment tools that you can use for this review. So the VISTA has an opportunity to assess their own performance, and the supervisor can weigh in as well. So we provide a couple of tools for that, which you could also find in the manual that you have, and we will resend that out to you as well. I would also like to note that early next week, I'll be sending out a link to all the supervisors that takes you to a beginning of the service year survey. It's something that NeighborWorks came up with, that we came up with. And it's an online survey. We just ask you a few questions, and it really helps us determine if your VISTAs might be in need of any additional resources or support. So please look for that email next week, and that's a great opportunity for you to give us feedback and us to determine how we might be able to provide any additional support if warranted.
And I just want to make a comment. Tina just put in the chat, if you want to look in there, that we've heard consistently that VISTA members want to know how they're progressing and to get feedback on their performance. So this is a really great tool for that.
Great, thanks. Okay, the next report is VISTA attendance. This report, as you can see on the screen, is designed as a safety net to prevent any improper overpayments should a VISTA end their service, and we're not aware of that. If something were to happen, you need to alert me right away, as in within 24 hours to the best of your ability, and then I will reach out to Tina. This is actually a verification report that's in the eGrant system that I submit on your behalf. So what you get from me every 2 weeks is an email basically saying, is your VISTA still reporting for service? And I think at this point, all of you have seen that email. You only need to respond if there's an issue. Otherwise, you can delete that email, but I submit this report every 2 weeks. So I need to know that everything is copacetic and your VISTAs are reporting to service, and everything's going well. If we don't report accurately on that, then issues do tend to ensue. So this is actually a really important report. So just keep in mind to contact me right away if you are running into any issues with attendance. And then the last report is the VISTA performance evaluation. This happens at the end of the year. It's actually referred to as the future plans form. In addition to filling out this report, it's also a great opportunity for you to sit down with your VISTA member towards the end of that service year and let them know how it went, give them some feedback. Kind of the same way you might do with an employee who's wrapping up and they're leaving your organization. Same thing. VISTAs love to get feedback. They want to know what went well, what are areas of improvement. And, that's your role as a supervisor and mentor to do that. So please take that opportunity at the end of the year to have that sit down and share that valuable information. But in addition, you will need to fill out this form. It's not very long. It probably wouldn't take you more than a few minutes, but the information that you put in that form, we use to help complete the process of moving the VISTA member out of service. So it's important you complete it and complete it on time. So that'll be something that you'll email into Charlotte, not till July, but just know that that's something that'll be coming. So let me just stop for a second and let's check the chat box one more time just to see.
No question.
Okay, good. Very thorough. All right, well, at this point, I am going to just hand this over to Charlotte because she has an exciting announcement for you.
Hi, everybody. This announcement is primarily for the VISTA members who are on the call. I'm going to be hosting another reporting webinar next week that is specifically for VISTA members, and it's going to go in depth through the performance measures reporting tool, which Sam Sauter is actually here today to run through just briefly. But I'm going to do a more thorough run through next week and answer any questions you have. So it's great if you're on the call today because this way you're getting it twice. And hopefully that'll really help clear up any confusion around this reporting tool that you're going to be filling out. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sam.
Okay, hi everyone. I am going to share the reporting tool now. Okay. All right, can everyone see my Excel sheet? Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna minimize this. All right, so this is what the reporting tool looks like. It's an Excel sheet with various tabs on the bottom. This first sheet, the only thing that you're going to fill out is this kind of like contact information at the top that also indicates the reporting dates, which is really important when you're saving all of these. You want to make sure you have the dates on there so you're not getting them confused. All of the data from these tabs will populate into this cover sheet. The first half of the sheet is more so like what we call demographic data, where it kind of just talks about things like amount of funds raised or how many volunteers you recruited. And then the second half of the sheet is involved with our focus area, which is economic opportunity. That's the focus area that NeighborWorks falls under. And in order to do those things, we do financial literacy, housing and employment. And these things are also captured on these tabs. And then it kind of just drills down into the actual work and the population that we're serving. So this is the first tab, it's volunteers. I'm gonna give you an example of when I did my first service year. I was a NeighborWorks VISTA, so I have experience with using this tool myself. So for volunteers, there's a section for ones that are recruited, ones that are managed, and then just the hours that they've served. And then the first column is volunteer management practices. So for example, I implemented one volunteer management practice by recruiting volunteers, and then let's say I'll put one in there, and then I recruited 5 volunteers, and then they each served 1 hour, so then they've got 5. And then you don't want to duplicate responses. So these recruited volunteers are not the same ones that you're managing. That would be if there were volunteers that you had from a previous reporting period, but you didn't recruit them. You still want to be able to track their hours. And then mine was in financial literacy. So you can go into these two and you'll be able to drill down a little bit more. So how many individuals did you serve with the financial literacy activities that your volunteers did? Let's say 1. And then the number of economically disadvantaged individuals who have improved financial knowledge, those are the same people that receive their services, and you can put 1. And for these, you have to have some form of backup data. So like if you did a survey to really assess if they did have improved financial knowledge, and then you want to go back to this sheet and you'll see like the beneficiaries, they have 1, and then also the volunteers have appeared here as well. In all of these categories, if you're confused about them, there's definitions at the bottom of the sheet and instructions on how to fill out the tool. So when in doubt, reference that, and then if you have any other questions, you can reach out to Charlotte if you're trying to fill out the tool. Then this is pretty self-explanatory. This is probably one of the easier sheets to fill out. It's just about the cash resources and in-kind donations that you received, and also the number of grants or funding proposals submitted. Let's say you didn't raise any cash resources, but in my case, I got $250 towards a green cleaning cabinet that was donated to us. And I would have receipts to show that that was the amount of money that I received in in-kind donations. And in order to get that, I personally did one fundraising proposal. And you want to make sure that in this category, these are things that the VISTAs have a heavy hand in. It's not something that, you know, they assisted with if they're just learning and entering service, but something that they really did play a large role in, because you want to make sure that that's what you're capturing, not something that they didn't really have the lead on. So this is a community needs assessment tab. This one, you'll probably only ever have like one community needs assessment. This is when you're surveying the entire community to see what they need. And that would be in a form of like surveys where you have volunteers go out and ask questions about what services does the community actually need. So in my case, I did financial literacy again, and I had one. So here is the training tab. This one is actually very impactful. This is a really good way to show how programs can be sustainable, because after the VISTA leaves, you're going to need trained volunteers and staff to continue on with their project. So you want to have maybe one training event, and then that training event lasted 3 hours. And then this number of staff and volunteers that receive the training would be my 5 volunteers plus 5 more staff. So that pulls from the data that we put in the previous volunteers tab. So these things you can be checking throughout the time that you're filling out to make sure they're lining up. And these are solo reports. So this is only for 1 month. Let's say you had another training. That wouldn't mean that you put 2 trainings for the next month. It's only that 1 month that you had the training. This tab is for new business processes. This is one of the tabs that are most incorrectly reported on that we find. A new business process is something that enhances the way that the organization is functioning, something that they didn't have before, maybe some sort of tracking tool or database, some sort of like social media, marketing, things like that, volunteer coordination program. Those are the things that would be considered a new business process. And you would like just put that 1 in this case. And then this is the miscellaneous tab. This is more so about some of the things that are about the population that we're serving. So you might not have anything to report on in this area, but this includes a lot of things about veterans that are receiving service and also youth. And then you'll see that like these are financial literacy, housing, employment. Those are our focus area parts, and that's why you'll be able to show that in this section as well. And also I want to reiterate that it's okay to have zeros. You don't want to report something that you don't have. And it's okay, like Debbie was saying, maybe in 1 quarter you won't have a lot to report on because things really pick up, but you will be able to see that as time progresses, and that's why it's important to keep this each month so you can really see your own progress. It's not just a tool just because we want to see your reports, but it's something for you to be able to kind of evaluate yourself. And you can be able to see like, oh, am I meeting my benchmarks? And you can adjust seeing like what area you need to focus on. This is the Stories from the Field tab, which is a very, very important tab. This is where you can explain where all of your data comes from. So you'll be able to talk about like what were the in-kind donations that you received, what was that, how much was it. You put that in the actual like number tab, but you want to make sure that you're able to explain what those resources were. And then also sometimes you'll have things that don't necessarily seem to fit into those 3 categories, but we still want to have it so that you're able to report on them. So this is also a good place for you to put in the narratives talking about all the great things that your VISTA members are doing if it doesn't necessarily at that time fit into one of those categories. And that's just a quick overview of the tool. You'll just type in like this and then it'll save. And sometimes the box will be a little bit smaller. So you want to make sure that like you could probably also write this in a separate document and make sure that like when it comes reporting time, you have that and you can submit it to us with the rest of the performance progress report. So,
okay. Yeah. Thanks, Sam. So we got a comment from Tina that I'd like to address real quick. If you can go to the tab that talks about the community assessment, something I just like to reiterate out loud, that for this measure, if you're surveying a large number of residents or clients for the same purpose, it would be one community assessment, even though 250 individuals were actually surveyed. A lot of people accidentally misinterpret that question, so it's very important just to make that clear. And then also in the example about developing a social media plan, for that measure, if you're working on a social media plan, you would count that as one and not like every little social media item that falls into that plan. So also something to keep in mind. Another question that came in was, do we fill this tool out for September or should we start with October? I say if you can fill it out for September, please do, because technically that is your first full month for most of you. So yeah, go ahead and go back and fill it, keep a spreadsheet for September. And next week will be a great opportunity to ask more questions about that when you're on the webinar with Charlotte, because at that point you will have had some real live data to put in and see how the tool is working for you. Okay. Oh, and then Tina also had some more information to share in chat. This is good. The value of in-kind or cash donations doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. So you want to be sure to say how that funding or donation is helping to meet your objective. And the example that Tina's sharing is a $5,000 grant would support our organization to provide financial literacy services to, say, 350 clients.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was talking about in the stories from the field. That's where you can really drill down and say what those resources went to.
Any more questions about the tool before we go into just general questions? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move this back over to here. And thank you, Sam. That was really, really helpful, really thorough. I appreciate the real life examples because I feel like that really helps people center in on how to use it. So any last questions or comments? We'll stay on the line for a few more minutes. If you have any questions about what was shared, we did record this webinar. We will share the link to the recording and the PowerPoint. We will also email out the Excel tool, what you just saw that Sam had demoed. We also have a very thorough user guide and FAQ that accompanies that tool. But like Sam showed you, if you scroll down each page of the tool, you get instructions and more definitions built right into the tool. And then we'll also be sending you the reporting manual, which breaks down everything I just shared in the PowerPoint, all the reports, and a little bit more information about each one and when they're due and how to submit and so forth. So any questions?
There is one. A member asked, when is the first due date for the reports? If you're referring to that spreadsheet, you're keeping that for your monthly record so that your supervisor is able to submit the larger 6-month report. So you should be filling that out every month, but it's not due to us. You need to be keeping your own records of that.
Okay. Well, oh, we got one more. Let's see.
Sam, can you give an example of cash leveraged?
So that just means like the cash resource, so like how much your grant was, and that is like the example that Tina gave, like how that grant was used. So it's just the amount of money that your grant that you contributed to was provided to your organization. Did that answer your question?
And if you think of a question later, we will be around. You have all our information and contact information, so you could always call or email with more questions as they occur to you. Okay, I think we're having a couple more questions come in.
Thanks, Tina.
There's one.
Yeah, I see.
Yes, we'll send out the link to the taped version. We have a longer question came in. We might just email that out in response to that question.
Yeah. Queen, can you send us a email with that question so that we can answer it in more detail for you?
Okay.
And Selena, yes, we're going to send the webinar via email.
Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you one more time for all of you being on this call, taking a little bit of time out of your day. Thank you, Tina, for joining us and sharing your insights. I really appreciate having you on the call as well. And I hope all of you have a great day. Like I said, we're here. If you need information, support, or have questions, please reach out. Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, we do have one last question that we might want to address here. We had the question, how should VISTAs be tracking hours? Is there a specific way? How do they need to be entered? And we do have a timesheet tool that we've sent out, and we can send that out again. But that is for your own records and to keep track of leave days specifically. So
yeah, Tasha, I'll email that out again, the timesheet you can use, which helps you track leave days. So we do encourage everybody to use a timesheet, and we have one that is very user-friendly that we'll send out and encourage everybody to use. Oh, actually, you know what? We'll just send that timesheet out to everybody. So yes, we will add the timesheet to the resources that will be going out. Great. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
bye. Thanks.
Thank you.